Hello everyone, Spurs Focus as Nottingham Forest take on Wolves on tomorrow's Monday Night Football. Will the Reds make it 6 wins in a row, or can Vitor Pereira continue Wolves' resurgence as they go 3 games unbeaten? Joining me for this week's Opposition podcast, it's great to have the Wolves report's Ryan Leister back with us. Ryan, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, everyone watching. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. I'm looking forward to it. You must be happy. Forest absolutely flying, flirting with the top of the Premier League. I bet you never saw that coming.
No, oh my gosh, no. I mean, we've discussed it at length, and we'll never get bored of discussing. In fact, one of the things we said today was that the last time we went to Molineux was Cooper's second last game, and it was rough, and playing a patchwork team, and those are rough times. And for the transition that we've seen is pretty crazy. But I want to hear about the gradual transition of Wolves. It was all looking like it was on a very downward slope. For the last couple of weeks, it looks a little bit more encouraging. Your season has been, I suppose it always looked like it was going to be tough when you saw the fixtures to start with, and I thought they'd pick up, and they sort of did, sort of didn't. Gary O'Neal's gone, new managers come in. This is a big question, but it's to condense into a couple of minute answers. But what have you made of it all?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. It never seems to be an easy street being a Wolves fan, but I guess that's a football fan. And then it never feels like your team's just in the middle, just minding their own business, going on a nice cut run, being comfortable. It's never one or the other. So it's either one or the other. It's never just comfort. Gary O'Neal, Gary did well when he came in straight away, but Wolves lost to Coventry. They were really poor in the FA Cup quarter final last March sort of time. Wolves never recovered from that. I don't think Gary O'Neal ever did. Their wins ratio was really poor for the end of the season. And then after that, you sell Max Kilman and Pedro Neto, who get in a lot of teams in the Premier League. When you don't replace them, well, numbers-wise, we replace them, but quality-wise, we certainly didn't replace them. And when you lose 25% of your outfield and the replacements coming in, or Max wasn't even replaced, coming in on it anywhere near as good enough, it's no surprise that Wolves are struggling. However, I do believe that Gary should have been getting more out of his squad, and I think evidence is that of what Vitor Pereira has done so far.
So where does the eye of the fan base lie? Because obviously I've mentioned this a lot on the podcast. Mates with a lot of Wolves fans. I'm in a WhatsApp group. They're slightly split. I mean, one of them absolutely loathes Fossen. They generally all hate Matt Hobbs, who is in charge of the transfer policy, and they were pretty sort of split on O'Neal. I think they had a lot of time for O'Neal, but they wanted him out, I would surmise it as. Is that roughly a representative of the fan base, would you say?
I think O'Neal was fortunate to get as long as he had. A lot of people at Wolves seem to like him. However, it appears now that not all the players liked him. Obviously, that's never going to happen at the time. So that's an interesting one. I don't have an issue with Fosun. I have an issue with the way Jeff Shee runs the football club. If it wasn't for Fosun, Wolves wouldn't be where they are now. I wouldn't have tasted an FA Cup semi-final, European quarter-final, consecutive sevenths in the Premier League, beating Man City. I've seen Wolves beat Man City, at Chelsea, at Man United, at Arsenal. Wolves have beaten everybody since they've been back. And those are something 8-9 years ago I didn't think I would ever see in my lifetime, of consistently having a good fence with the very best. However, Jeff Shee, I'm not sure he's been fully transparent with the people at Wolverhampton Wanderers. He certainly upset Lopetegui. If Guillem Balaguer's tweets are anything to go by, then he was told a few porkies or given a few promises. Hence, that's why he left. And then Gary O'Neal came in. I can't imagine Gary O'Neal would have been told that Max Kilman and Pedro Neto are both going and we're not going to replace them. I can't imagine he would have been sold that either. So, and then on top of that, he does some really interesting columns when he pretty much said at the start of the season, and if European football and trophies are for you, is what you're after, then maybe Wolves aren't for you. I mean, what a thing for a chairman to say to a fan base. I mean, we live and dream. You're living the dream right now in terms of you're flirting with the champion. You are in a Champions League spot, but we go to watch our team to dream, and to take those dreams off you, to say that's just someone that's completely out of touch. You might think it, and it might be true, but you don't expect the chairman to be saying that. And then for good measure, he throws the season ticket prices up. So I would say the majority of fans don't trust Jeff Shee. We've got currently well, up until Vitor Pereira came in, we had Champions League prices for Championship football. That was my tagline. Changed a little bit in the last few weeks, but still, when we're of a price comparison just a little bit below Aston Villa and the money they've spent, and they're a Champions League team, then something really doesn't add up, especially as well the last few summers when Wolves have made a profit. So Fosun, okay. Jeff Sheen, no. Matt Hobbs, I'm on the fence. He's got to do a little bit more, but apparently he couldn't find a new manager, so the chairman had to go past him and go to George Mendes. So that tells me that he's not done a particularly good job either.
Interesting. I mean, you mentioned the new manager, Vitor Pereira. Interesting CV. When I saw how many clubs he's had, what have you made of him so far, and what's he changed? Because you've had fixtures that have probably turned out to be quite favourable. I think it's fair saying Leicester United in a mess. Spurs, we beat Spurs with no back four. It seems like he's come in and done a good job and taken the opportunity, I guess, against those teams. What have you made of him?
I think he simplified things. I think Gary ONeal is a man that knows a lot about football. I just felt, though, I know you would expect professional footballers to adapt to different instructions every week, but I think if you're changing the message every single week and it's not working and you're changing the team, you need harmony and consistency in anything in life. And I don't think they were getting that. And I just think in the end, Wolves looked lost, and there was switches and things were going on, and no one seemed to know. And I think the players were just lost in the end. He seems to have simplified things. We're back to a 3-4-3. Matheus Cunha has the freedom to do whatever he was, even though you won't be facing him, which I'm sure you're pleased about, scoring that screamer at your place last year. I think he's just simplified things. Players look like they now know what they're doing, and they're professional footballers. They should know what they're doing, but everyone seems to have an understanding. There's a fire in the belly. The keeper looks more confident. There's such a makeshift back three bin there, but they look like they work together. Everything just looks more in position and more in place. And for the work he's done, a 3-0 at Leicester, it was fantastic. Game management was excellent. As you mentioned about Man United, they're not very good, so it's not really a massive scalp, although it's always enjoyable to beat Man United. That was a thoroughly deserved win, especially Bruno getting sent off. That was fun. And as you mentioned, Spurs, an incredible team going forward. They put the fullbacks up, so there's almost a front six at times there, but it was away from home. We did play the second half without Cunha. We won the second half 1-0 and were good value for the draw. So what he's done in a short space of time, if that's the trajectory Wolves can carry on, although it obviously won't, it's a very good start. And Wolves fans are very much looking up and not looking down now.
Yeah, I saw on Match of the Day, he talks about that free kick that he scored, and looks like players obviously being coached, and like ONeal's interviews. You can tell a manager's done when they start slagging off players, and he did it in like 4 weeks in a row. He was like, I think he thought did he think he was gone then? He was just waiting for the bullet.
I do think he had the feel of a dead man walking. And like you said, if you're hammering your players, what annoyed me and lost a little bit of respect from the Wolves fans with ONeal is it felt like there was near the end, there was very much a self-preservation project with himself going, I've done this, I've done that. Look at me, but look at the things that we've done. And this really didn't help him. He said against Ipswich that was us at maximum today. That was us at full blast. So we've lost 2-1 at home to Ipswich. No disrespect to them. They've done well. They brought players from League One. They're doing all right. They're making a fist of it. And then we keep 2 clean sheets on the bounce at Leicester and Man United and get 2 or so. It clearly wasn't a team that was at maximum. It looked like a team that, I'm not saying they give up. I just think they were frustrated and they'd lost direction.
Yeah, you can't say that. Even if you're thinking that, you can't say players are just gone then. So picking up on a couple of individuals and questions that we discussed in our match preview we did earlier today. Before we get to that, Cunha, obviously, like such a big fan of his. Loads of people in the live chat and our podcast always say Forest should buy Cunha. And I don't think we can afford him. And I think he will go to Arsenal or Spurs or something like that if he goes. How big a loss is he? And more importantly for this game, how will Wolves look to cover him, do you think?
Yeah, he's a massive loss. I'm not going to say he's a maverick, because in recent weeks, the tracking he's done back, the pressing, coming back into midfield. But, I mean, you saw, he scored that goal earlier in the season. Last season. It was Bellegarde this season. We love a screamer at that end. But he came back and he was like probably 75% fit, could last an hour, and did that. But the form he's taken into, the strength, the belief, the touch, he's just, the form at the moment, he's up there with peak Jimenez and Jota when they were at Wolves and Wolves were in Europe. He's unbelievable. But not, you know, we have fans' favourites. But not only that, when it's a forward or a number 10 that's playing in a free role that goes past people, back heels, he's scoring screamers. He's a man very much at the top of his game. And I think in this current form, he wouldn't be a loss for Wolves. I think he'd be a loss for anybody. However, Wolves beat Spurs 1-0 in the second half without Cunha and were better than Spurs in the second half. And they were, I'm not going to say we didn't miss him, but the results suggested that Wolves were okay. Now, of course, they'll miss him. He was out for a long time. Obviously, he's got his 2-game ban for stealing that man's glasses or something else, maybe. But he's a fantastic player. How will Wolves line up without him? Hwang Hee-chan scored a fantastic free kick. Hwang Hee had looked someone that was completely lost for the last year. Yeah, he scored 2 in 2, scored a tap-in at the end that Cunha laid on from against Man United, scored a fantastic free kick at Spurs on his instep about 20 yards out, bent into the far corner. So he may come back in. Carlos Forbes, who we signed from Ajax, I think. Ajax, somewhere in Holland, I think it was Ajax. He came in, it was Ajax. He came in the last 20 minutes playing that left-hand side, absolutely rapid. Strand Larsen didn't start, but it was a sub. It's interesting to see what he goes with, but can you replace Cunha for his talent? No, but as a team, Wolves still were better than Spurs in the second half and were good value for that point. So it will be interesting. And I don't think it's at that early stage. Vitor Pereira doesn't really have any favourites. He just was what he wants. He rested a few players, or sort of changed a few players for Spurs that people weren't expecting, and we've still got a point. So yeah, I don't know what he'll do, but I trust him whatever he does.
Who do you think will start in goal?
It'll be Jose Sarr for sure. I think Sam Johnson will be departing this window.
That's a strange signing.
It's a very strange signing. Now, I don't really know who signed him. Obviously, Wolves signed him, but I don't know who at the club signed him. I don't really understand. It didn't make any sense, because is he probably a little bit more steady than Jose Sarr? Probably. Is Jose Sarr a little bit more erratic? He can. But in terms of just pure goalkeeping, there's a distance between Jose Sarr and Sam Johnson. He's by clear the better shot stopper. Since Pereira's come in as well, he's coming out punching crosses, catching crosses. So he appears to have been at a factory reset as well. Sam Johnson, I don't really know. 31-year-old, granted he played for England. From what I've seen so far, he's nowhere near the level of Jose Sarr, and as it stands, he's a £10 million downgrade. So word is that Spurs are interested, looking to upgrade on Forster. Obviously won't be their number one, but I'd be surprised if he was a Wolves player come the end of January.
Interesting, because he was obviously heavily linked with us as well. So I'm glad we didn't sign him with Matt Sells doing so well. So that was a strange one. Just before we talk about the defence, a quick word for the Trent navigation. The game is being shown on Sky, so you can watch the game at the Nav. £8.50 pizzas, 30% off all draft ales, and £3 cask pints. Obviously, it's on the 2 big screens. It's going to be a cold one, but they'll have the shutters down and the heaters on in the big shed, and they'll be on indoors as well. So do get down to Nav if you're not watching at home or in the ground, obviously, and thanks for their support as ever. We did our preview earlier on the defence, and we were saying, Dawson, Bueno, Doherty, if that's a 3 at the back, you feel like you can get at it in terms of mobility. Players probably a few, past their best. ONeal slagged off Bueno as well and said he wasn't up to it. I guess Totti's, if he's out, I don't know if he is or not, it takes, like, say, some athleticism out of it. Does that worry you when you see that we've got quite a lot of pace out wide and to get at you?
Yeah, Santiago Bueno, I think pretty much the manager said he doesn't have the physical attributes to be a Premier League centre-back, yet he's played the last 3 games, got 2 clean sheets, and been our most solid defender in those 3 games. So, again, Gary O'Neill not making a bit of a wally of himself in that situation. Matt Doherty, not the quickest, but the hybrid right side of a 3. I mean, he's been a wing back, a right back, but this seems to suit him a little bit more because he's allowed to get forward in the space on that side of the pitch. He's a steady footballer. He's incredibly strong in the air, not the quickest. And the other side would be Dawson. I'd rather Dawson in the middle of a 3 because of his legs, but in terms of a solid stopper, he's very good. Can you get in behind those with pace? I would say so. Have the last 3 teams that we've played against got in behind us with pace? I think Jamie Vardy got him once and then the keeper was on the edge of the box. So it's not something that so far that has been tested. I would like to see Dawson on Chris Wood, because Chris Wood always scores against Wolves, and we just seem to, whether he's playing for Burnley, for Forest, he just seems to score past Wolves. But I think physically Wolves are more comfortable with Chris Wood than I am what you've got out wide. What you've got out wide, that pace there, particularly the Nuno way, which I know all about in terms of absorbing and breaking at fantastic pace. That's a concern. But then if they took in as a 5, Aït-Nouri, he's playing really well again, and Nelson Semedo, who's now our captain, playing really well as well. So Wolves do have the legs in Aït-Nouri and Semedo to cope with pace, but it means that we'd be dropping as a 5 and then trying to counter you back.
Is that the strength going the other way then? It feels like an interesting battle between Aït-Nouri and Aina and Semedo and Nico Williams. Is that one area where Wolves, is that your strongest area apart from Cunha?
The wing backs are playing really well. I think everyone looked a little bit lost. I mean, it's a little bit of a false stat, but in terms of progressive defenders in European football in the top leagues, Aït-Nouri's done the most travels with the ball. I think he's done the most take-ons, and I think Semedo's 3rd or 4th on the list. Granted, they're wing backs, so you'd expect them to go up a little bit more. So maybe those numbers aren't quite true of fullbacks, but those guys are very comfortable. They're going forward. They're looking pretty good. Them two are very much in form. I would say Wolves' strongest area of the pitch, though, is probably the midfield. João Gomez, who I'm a massive fan of, and Andre, who probably, in my opinion, wasn't used correctly under Gary ONeal. But two young Brazilians, very tigerish in the tackle, neat and tidy on the ball. Andre will tuck in and try and protect the back three, and João Gomez will get forward a little bit more. Not a lot, but he'll be the one that'll be more of a number 8, whereas Andre will come in and tuck in as like a 6 kind of thing. So Wolves' strongest area of the pitch for me is definitely the centre midfield. A lot of talk has been wanting to see those two as a pair for a while, and now we've seen that, and we don't really lose the middle of the park that often. When we have more possession than Spurs at Spurs, for a team that's so attacking as them. You don't win games on possession, but that tells you what you need to know about the midfield.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, with a team with very little possession, it's pretty irrelevant, really. Like João Gomez is such a good player. I mean, I think he's getting loads of Premier League teams, and Andre's interesting. A Forest fan who we have on is a South American football expert by trade, Nathan. Yeah, big fan of Andre.
Big Forest fan as well.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about the midfield, because you've got those two, and you've got Lamina, who's a good player. They look a bit similar. I was reading about Lamina potentially going to Saudi Arabia. Do you think would he not play this game then?
I think Mario will be out. I think he's still struggling with his calf, whether that's linked to the move away. But I do feel like he'll disappear and go to Saudi this January, and that's a shame. And that's no slight on him. But Wolves are linked with more Brazilian midfielders. I think they're linked with a couple more more number 8 kind of players, left footers, who are a little bit more creative than what we've got, because there's 3, Mario, João Gomez and Andre, are a bit samey in terms of sitting deeper, breaking the play, being strong, recovering the ball and then distributing to the wing backs. So I don't see Mario starting. I think he'll be fit, but those pair will be starting. Andre, I'm a massive fan. He's one of those players that he just seems to stand next to you and win the ball. He doesn't really fly in for tackles so much, but his ball recovery, he's quite happy to take. If you commit, you'll take the 5. He's quite strong against pressing. He'll take the 5 yards in front and then pass. I'm a big fan of Andre. I really like what he does. It'd be interesting to see what he does. Him and Gibbs White having a little dance.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Forest players then. I mean, you've been on here before. They're always good battles. I'll ask you about a prediction towards the end, but how are you feeling about Forest as an opponent? Specifically, now we're having such a good season. Are you particularly worried about them or not?
I mean, it might sound arrogant and delusional, but I'm not worried. But I wasn't worried playing Man United, and I wasn't worried playing Spurs. The last few games, I'm enjoying watching Wolves again. I don't like the last few games under Nuno. I think most people actually thought we'll probably lose to Ipswich because that's the way it was going. But the mood change and the change in the players and the momentum now, I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think it'll be great. I think obviously Gibbs White will be the pantomime villain returning to Molineux again. That will always make for a good atmosphere. Nuno coming back, he's respected, but he's beat us enough times. I think he beat us twice with Spurs in a couple of weeks, once in the cup and once in the league. So Wolves will certainly want to get one over on him, as he will on Wolves. So I'm looking forward to it. There's not really, obviously it's not really a local derby, but there's certainly a little bit of needle, particularly after that cup game and the penalties and whatever went on Pedence, and then the old Morgan Gibbs White with his fingers in his ears. So I like the needle of the game for me. I think that gives it an edge. Obviously, I don't want no trouble or any bother, but I like when there's a bit of spite about the game. I think it makes for a better game. I think it makes for a better atmosphere. And I think under the lights at Molineux, it will certainly deliver that.
When we were talking on our preview earlier, we said even though there's a lot of points between the teams as it stands, we thought it'd be 0-0, 1-1, 1-0 either way. That kind of game, is that your kind of perception as well with how Wolves have improved of late then?
Yeah, I think so. Now we've both agreed on that. It's going to be 4-3 either way, or something, or something like that. But the way I see it is obviously Nuno's sides are very well organised. They're quite happy to tuck in, absorb, and counter, and they're not really fussed about possession. They're interested about what they do with the ball when they get it and doing it quickly. Wolves looked more defensively reassured since Vitor's come in. 2 Portuguese managers. Yeah, I mean, it does stink of 0-0, 1-0, doesn't it? Would I take a 0-0 and beat 8 points from those 4 games? Probably would. But I think there'll be some drama. I know you're going to ask me a prediction at the end. I can't call it, but I don't see a lot of goals with those 2 guys there. I don't.
Have you gone behind yet under Pereira? I asked that because obviously we've scored first more than any other Premier League team, and when we go 1-0 up, we just look like really hard to beat. So impressive. Have you gone behind under Pereira?
Yeah, we went 2-1 down at Spurs.
How did they respond? Obviously, I know you
responded.
The game.
Wolves were fantastic the second half. They played really, really well. We just seemed to get into rhythm of what we were doing. Obviously, with the fixture congestion, there was a lot of tired legs, but it was Wolves that were pressing for the equaliser. There was one silly mistake from Tommy Doyle that could have made it 3-1 for when they came through, but otherwise it was Wolves that were pressing for the equaliser, and I think they were good value for that in the end. So we looked like a settled side, and that's a lot to say after just 3 games, but everyone seems to know what they're doing, where they should be, what they're doing. Everyone's running for each other. There's a lot of measured aggression and not silly aggression after the game and strops. So yeah, the anger seems to be measured and in the right areas now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Last question in lieu of a prediction, because I actually find them a bit pointless, because you're never going to say you're going to lose, and I'm never going to say we're going to lose.
Absolutely never.
So, referencing my Wolves mates again, one of them getting a bit giddy, say we're going to finish in the top 10, and I said, okay, what about these fixtures? So, Forest at home, Newcastle away, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Villa at home, you probably know all these, Liverpool away, Bournemouth away, Fulham at home before the fixtures finally turn in March. You're going to tell me you're going to stay up, but you must be massively worried still.
I'm not now, no. Honestly, Matt, honestly.
Even if Ipswich are picking up, and
Vitor has done. I mean, it's how delusional football fans get, and I'll probably fall into that because, like you, I love my football team. I've seen enough in the last few weeks to say that the players that we've had under Gary ONeal have been massively underperforming. If you'd have reeled off those fixtures to me 3 weeks ago, I'd have been going, "Oh my word, done. We're in so much trouble." And now I'm like, I quite like the sound of them now. I'm like, as obviously what Nuno's doing, it kind of doesn't surprise me, because getting the team organised, having pace out wide and countering, and having a number 9, you had Jimenez, now you've got Chris Wood doing the business. It doesn't surprise me. But equally, I've seen enough that I think Wolves playing like they have been can give most people a game. So are Wolves going to finish like top 10, like one of your mates said? Probably not. Are Wolves going to stay up? I think they will stay up. Ipswich are picking up. But then you've got to look at Everton, Crystal Palace. I'd even look at if Man United's form continues. Now, Man United probably aren't going to get relegated because they'll just throw loads of money at it in January. But Man U were pathetic against Wolves. We outfought them, we outplayed them. Wolves are good value for that. And I think a lot of teams would have, like Bournemouth went there and won 3-0. A lot of teams are outplaying Man United, and that's just because Man United aren't very good. And keep changing the manager every year is not going to change it, because there's been so many bad signings. But anyway, it's not a Man U podcast; it's a Forest podcast talking about Wolves. But yeah, I'd go as far as Man United. If they don't change their form, they're there for a reason at the moment. So, yeah, I don't think Wolves are going to go down, mate.
I mean, I'll be honest, I predicted they would at the start of the season. That was
partly and now you tell me in the middle of your show. How dare you?
It was probably partly to wind up my friends, but it's tough because I think you're right. There's a lot of stock in just being organised and being tactically sound and running harder than everyone and all that. So, like obviously Forest, but Brentford, Fulham, Bournemouth have shown that if you crack that code, then you can do better than going back to Man United are absolute dross and completely unbalanced and all that stuff. So yeah, I agree with that. I do think you might struggle to stay out. I don't know. It depends on Ipswich and the transfer window, doesn't it? But I can see your phone's going. So we'll end
no. It's my dog was snoring over there, and I was just trying to get him to be quiet. Sorry. He heard you talk about Forest and then had enough.
He's not the first to do that. Don't worry. People use me as a sleep app, I think, and then paying for one of those monthly fees.
Hopefully. If we're having this conversation again, Matt, it means Wolves are in the Premier League because you're certainly not going down. If we aren't having this conversation again, it means you were right and we won't be speaking for a couple of years probably. So hopefully we'll speak to you again early part of next season.
I don't know if I'm right or not. It's so difficult to predict. Wolves have got better players than Ipswich. I think Leicester and Southampton are terrible. It's just, can Ipswich maintain
Everton
it on spirit? Everton are dire. We watched them last week, and then obviously I watch fan reaction from there. There's a really good Everton channel, and apart from they said that only 2 of our players would get in their team, which was mad. But their reaction just to how bad the football is and how bad Davies is. Yeah, I could see them getting hooked in, and also they've got new owners who might sack Davies, and it might blow up in their face. Yeah, we'll see. It's. I mean, I'll be honest
in the Championship next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be glad. I'm loving not looking over my shoulder every result and seeing, rooting for Ipswich to beat Chelsea, rather than enjoying it being the other way around.
And do you know what? I understand that. I remember those couple of years that we had doing that, and it was so nice going into games, just believing and being up there. So yeah, fair play. Enjoy it. Nuno's done great. I don't wish him any bad at all. Good luck. Other than Monday night, and obviously, I'd love us to give Forest a reality check, but it's going to be hard, and he's not going to want to go there and lose.
No. Right, looking forward to that. Thanks very much to Ryan. We'll be back with a post-match show tomorrow night, and then Tuesday with a full breakdown, and we'll look ahead to the FA Cup a little bit. That'll be with, I think Fletcher's on that, Darren Fletcher, and a couple of the regulars, so do join us for that. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, consider channel membership or Patreon, and give us a lovely 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Ryan, you're a wonderful man, good company. I listened to the Wolves report to hear how you pronounced your name to finally get it right, and I typed it out as Leicester in the city, so I was mortified last time. I think I got it wrong, which is a really bad thing to do. So really good to have you.
It's been happening for 45 years, Matt, and it will continue to happen. So that's fine. But Happy New Year to you anyway. Enjoy the game.
And you? Are you 45?
I am indeed.
Well, you don't look it. There you go. That's a compliment to end on.
After you've slagged Wolves off, yeah, thanks.
I've got to do something. Right. Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the game, and if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.